This is a very basic video about some common geometry terms, and also in the end I show you how to draw both a square, not a square, a cube, and the rectangular prism, kind of using some of these very common geometry terms. So the first geometry term that we really should talk about is a point, and that's going to be hard to see. But a point is literally just a point. We can put a dot anywhere we'd like and call it a point. So that's going to be our first geometry term. And I'll go ahead and I'm going to make it teeny, tiny so that it actually registers. In reality, that's really a line on my page, but we're just going to label it point. Oh, it might be nice if we don't label it in 200 point font though, but big enough for you to be able to read it. All right, there's the word point, and let's make it black. The next very common geometry term that is useful is a line. And a line is actually made from 2 points. So you would have a point here and create a line. Let's make it a kind of a crooked line here. 2 points create a line. And so let's go ahead and label this a line. And this is a straight line, not a curve. So lines can also be curvy, but this is not a curve. This is a straight line. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is draw specific kinds of lines. Okay, and I'm going to do that over here kind of under the line category. The first set of lines we want to draw are something called parallel lines. Parallel lines, and I need to pull out some guidelines. Parallel lines are 2 lines that run in exactly the same direction. So if they were to go forever, kind of how my lines look like they're going forever, they will never cross. They are going in exactly the same direction. Now, for you to be able to draw 2 parallel lines, one of the things you can do is lay your ruler down, right? Maybe you have a ruler that looks like this. You can lay your ruler down on the paper, and you can use this side of the ruler and this side of the ruler to draw 2 lines. That would make 2 parallel lines, but you're only going to ever be able to draw 2 lines that are the width of the ruler. So to draw 2 parallel lines using your paper and a ruler anywhere you'd like, you need to first measure from the edge of the paper in however far you'd like to go. So I'm going to say let's measure 2 inches from the edge of the paper here and make a little dot right here. So we're going to measure 2 inches in and make a little dot. Then somewhere over here, it doesn't really matter where, you're going to measure another 2 inches here. Try to keep your ruler as straight as possible. Measure 2 inches here and make another little dot here. So we've got 2 inches from the edge here and 2 inches from the edge here. And if we connect those 2 dots, we will have a straight line that's exactly the same distance from those 2 edges. So I'm going to get rid of my points. To make a parallel line to that, you would measure from this corner down, and let's measure from this corner down, let's measure a 1/2 inch. So from here to here, measure a 1/2 inch on your ruler and make a point. From here to here, measure a 1/2 inch on your ruler and make a point. And because this is exactly the same distance here and exactly the same distance here, when we connect these 2 points, we are forming a parallel line to the first one. And I can go ahead and get rid of my 2 points now. And so this is now a set of parallel lines. So let's label these parallel lines. Parallel lines. Go ahead and move my title over. Okay. 2 other kind of lines that are very important are perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines. So now that you know how to draw a straight line, I'm going to assume that you know how to draw a straight line. And I'm going to draw a straight line down here. A perpendicular line is a line that is 90-degree angle to the first line. So where this line that I drew is perfectly straight horizontal, and we can talk about that right now too. In fact, we could even label this one horizontal. Let's do that. Horizontal. Horizontal means that it follows the horizon. It goes perfectly straight back and forth, follows the horizon. We need to make a line that's perfectly vertical. And when we do that, we're going to make a perpendicular line that creates a 90-degree angle. To do that, we're going to measure in from the edge 2 points, just like we would have from the top or from the bottom. So let's say that we're going to measure in 3 inches. So measure from the edge of your paper in 3 inches and make a point. And we're going to measure in from the edge 3 inches down here and make another point. Now, because we have it exactly 3 inches from both, we connect these 2 points and it's going to be vertical, perfectly vertical at a 90-degree angle to the perfect horizontal line that we drew. And so I'm going to label this vertical. And these 2 lines, because they form a 90-degree angle, these 2 lines are now called perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines. There we go, perpendicular lines. All of these types of lines are very important, and not all lines are parallel or perpendicular. You do often have lines that go at angles to each other. And so when we have lines like this, you can see that these are crossing lines, but they do not form parallel lines or perpendicular lines. In fact, if you look at these lines, you can see that this angle on top, let's go ahead and make this red on top. This angle on top here, ooh, that's not a very bright red. Let's make it a little brighter. Looks awfully similar to this angle down here. And it is, it's very similar. Those are exactly the same angles, top and bottom. I think I could do a little bit of a better job. Maybe not. Maybe I should stop using my mouse and start using my tablet. These 2 angles are exactly alike to each other. And we're not going to talk about all the different names of angles here. That's it. That would be a different video. But these 2 angles are also exactly like each other. Okay? So that's also really important. These are the different kinds of lines. So point, line, and there's a bunch of different kinds of lines. The next thing is plane. And a plane, the reason that I waited to do the plane is because a plane uses parallel lines that are at some form of angle to each other. So the first thing we're going to do in order to draw a plane is we're going to draw a straight line, just like this. Then, measuring from the top down, you want to draw yourself a guideline. And that guideline can be any length you want. Make it longer than your first line. And it can be a really light color. So I'm going to do this really light gray. You should use your pencil really lightly, draw a perpendicular line to this one. And now what you're going to do with your pencil, with your ruler right now, you are going to connect this point to anywhere in. Don't connect it perfectly vertical, connect it anywhere in at an angle to this guideline. So if I touch this point, I need to make mine black again, to anywhere in here, I now have, let me do it a little bit higher. Oh, even more. There we go. I now have another line at an angle. Keep your ruler at the same angle and just slide your ruler down until it touches this point and draw the exact same angle. Now I'm just eyeballing it. Ooh, yeah, see, and you can see I didn't eyeball it very well. My angle probably should go out here. Now, if you have a protractor, you could measure this angle here and make sure it's the same angle here. And that's how you would get, or even the same angle here. That's how you would get perfectly parallel lines this way as well. But you can also use your ruler and just slide it down your paper. And when you connect these 2 points together here, you'll see that it creates something called a plane. Let me get rid of my guideline. You can go back in and you can erase this guideline now. And this is called a plane. So point, line, plane. Those are the 3 really important geometry terms in order to be able to start to draw geometric figures. And I'm going to show you really quick how to draw a cube and how to draw a rectangular prism. Okay, so the first thing is drawing a cube. You need to start off with 2 vertical lines. And in fact, let me change where I'm going to draw this cube. I'm going to draw it down here. 2 vertical lines that are 1 inch from each other. So we're going to make a 1-inch cube. So 2 vertical lines that are 1 inch from each other and 1 inch tall. So measure from edge to edge, measure 1 inch up and down. And I'm going to be eyeballing it a little bit here. And in fact, it helps me if I draw some guidelines, and you can do the same thing. I would be able to do these perfectly, but for sake of brevity, we're not going to. So 2 vertical lines, 1 inch long, just like this. And this is something very good to practice without a ruler once you get good at it, so that you can start to draw cubes and rectangular prisms without a ruler and get them as straight as possible. But for now, you could draw 2 1-inch lines, exactly 1 inch apart from each other. And so when you connect the tops of those 2 lines, you should get a 1-inch square. And that's going to form the basis of our cube. Now, it does not matter if you go 1 inch back. In fact, you shouldn't go 1 inch back, because as things go off into the distance, they get smaller. And so at about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch away, you're going to want to draw another parallel line that is also 1 inch long. You see that? Kind of offset from here. It doesn't matter how far offset. You could have put it out here. Well, if you put it out here, it's no longer a cube. So the farther you go out here, the less of a cube it's going to be and the more of a prism it's going to be. You go just a little bit of a distance and you can still maintain the illusion that it's cube. And your last thing that you're going to do is you're going to connect this corner to this corner and this corner to this corner. And so now you can see we have what looks like the top of our cube. Now, of course, it's very clunky because I'm using a digital, but you should try and get them as closely matched as you can. The last thing I'm going to do, the last ruler line straight up and down, is you're going to make a 1 inch perfectly vertical line straight up and down from here. If you go exactly 1 inch, it'll be very easy to then connect this point to this front point and finish off your cube. And so that's a basic cube. You're going to follow exactly the same pattern in order to draw a rectangular prism, but in this case, all that matters is that you have measured the lengths of your vertical and horizontal lines so that you keep them exactly the same distance from each other. See how I've used some guidelines to make sure that my measurements are the same. So you're going to, you're going to draw a rectangle. Ooh, that is not a straight rectangle, is it? Oh, neither is that. Let me get it exactly on the line. That's close. And just like how we did for the cube, we're going to draw a line that's offset this way, from here to here. And we're going to connect everything. And a vertical line from here to here. and we're going to connect everything. And that is a rectangular